Gauritananda Prabhu ki jai, Shradha Manju ki jai, Nanda Kriti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai nitai, Gaura Premanande, Hari 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 Bo. This morning we're going to discuss 5 kinds of guru and the conditions with which we need to approach the spiritual master. Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagyavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. It's a famous verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Wandering throughout this Brahma Anda. What is the Brahma Anda? It's the egg of universal creation. But what is the substance of the universe? Brahma, spirit. Brahma Anda. Anda means an egg, and this universe is described to be like a golden egg. Excuse me. So the golden egg of spirit. And how does that spirit manifest? In all varieties of shapes and ways. It's described in some places to be like when we look at Shalagram. Shalagram is, the embodiment of the spirit, the absolute, in the micro, and in the macro as the universe. Therefore it's said in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, one of the first teachings given by Sutta Goswami to the sages is about bhakti. Sutta Goswami speaks to their sages, Savai pungsam paro dharma yato bhakti rato kitsaje, ahaitukya pratyataya tatma samprasidati, that bhakti is what gives satisfaction and fulfillment. It is the topmost dharma for all living beings. So Krishna gives various levels of dharma in the Gita, but ultimately he says, give up all these lesser levels of dharma and just surrender unto me. That is the topmost dharma. So if you're not able to follow the topmost dharma, then you follow different levels of dharma. But if you follow the topmost dharma, all other dharmas are included within that. Therefore it says, Devarshi Bhutaptirinam Pritirinam, that you have no debts to anyone, to the society, to your family. You have no obligation to anyone if you surrender Sarvatma Sharanyam Parihritya Kartam Gato Mukunda. If you completely offer yourself to Krishna Mukunda, who is the giver of liberation, then you have no more obligation. But then when Sukadeva Goswami appears on the scene in the end of the 16th, 17th chapter of the first canto, and he sits down and Parikshit Maharaj asks him questions. Parikshit Maharaj says, what should a person do who knows he is going to die? Right? It's a good question. When we realize our mortality, not that we don't realize it, but when we come to grips with it, when we acknowledge it, what should a person do who's going to die? Especially, he said, in his case, he said, I'm going to die in 7 days. So what should we do? So at that point, all your other types of dharmas aren't really applicable. It's like, oh, you should go and do good works. You should open a charity. You should give food to the poor. Yes, I can do that. I've done that in my life, but still I'm in this condition. Still my heart didn't change, and I made an offense to a great sage and was cursed. So when you only have a few days to live, what kind of dharma do you follow? The highest dharma, within which all other dharmas are included. Lok dharma, samaj dharma, all these different types of responsibilities. Oh, kartam karmani vadikaraste, do your duty. This is what people generally say is the teaching of the Gita. Do your duty, according to your nature. But what is your nature? Who are you? Second chapter of the Gita, Krishna clearly describes we are not this body. This body is like garments upon the soul, and we change them regularly. One gets worn out, we put on another one. So are we following the dharma of the clothes or the dharma of the proprietor or the possessor of the clothes? The dharma of the vehicle or the dharma of the driver, the spirit? So anyway, Sukadeva Goswami then describes bhakti in a gradation. And he says the first level of understanding the Absolute is as the universal form. Brahma Anda. the golden egg containing all spirit. And how does that spirit manifest? Therefore, Mahaprabhu taught the philosophy of Shakti Parinam, but everything is a transformation of energy. And that energy is the energy of God. But he distinguishes, for the sake of analysis, God and his energy, even though he says it's one. Shakti, Shaktimator Abhedaha. The potency and the possessor of the potency are one. Yet they manifest in two forms to enjoy their own loving exchange. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shakti Rasmad Ekatmanav. They are one, but yet Radha Krishna manifests in two forms to experience their divine loving exchange. Why do they appear in two forms? If you go back to the ontological source of existence, you could say, where does existence come from? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? The chicken comes first. God comes first. So Krishna comes first, and then immediately Shri Radha appears from his left side. This is in Vedic thought where the feminine side comes from. And she appears and she immediately runs towards Krishna. Rag Davati iti Radha. Running towards Krishna with attraction, with love, that is Radha. So she runs towards him, and then from her simultaneously manifests what? 8 gopis. Lalita, Vishaka, Chitra, Champak, Lata, Ranga, Devi, Sudevi, Induleka. Lalita, Vishaka, Chitra, Champak, Lata, Ranga, Devi, Sudevi, Induleka, Tanga, Vidya. And then from them, 108 gopis. Another 90, Shrimati Radhika, her 4 manjaris appear. Rupa, Rati, Gurusaki, Pradam Gurusaki. And then the 8 Astasakis, and then that's 12, and then again 96, 108. And that's the japa beads that we chant on. 108 gopis. And then Satakoti. 100 times 10 million. Right? 1,000 millions. 1,000 million or billions gopis appear. Right? And then they all perform ras. So what is the manifestation of the Brahman, Brahmanda, and all the millions of universes and the spiritual universes, because the material universes are just a reflection of the material universes are just a reflection of the spiritual universes. It all manifests from the energy's desire to serve the energetic God. Energy serving its source. And therefore, in this world, Brahmanda, this universe that we're in, everything that is manifest is a manifestation of that energy of God. Therefore, its purpose is to serve its source. That is bhakti. Rishikena Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. Bhakti is described to be loving service towards your source, who you have this intrinsic relationship with, free of all material illusions, what is called designations, upadi. Sarva upadi vinirmuktam, that's what we need liberation from. People say, what is liberation? We need liberation from our false identities. Sarva upadi. If we get liberation from that, then jivan mukta, we are liberated in this body. Because we understand this body is a temple for service, a vehicle for service. And so we maintain the body, but we understand the force of the spirit within and how we can serve. So we are part Krishna, we are part Radha, but we are eternally their das. Sat Chit Ananda. What is Krishna? Chit. Shrimati Radhika Ananda. Baladev. Sat. Sandini Shakti. Right? Chit Shakti, Sambit Shakti, and Ladini Shakti. Wow. And so the Jiva, the Atma, is by nature eternal, full of consciousness, or its quality is consciousness, its quality is eternal existence, and its quality is bliss. What is the Atma? Is the Atma consciousness? No. Consciousness is the quality of the Atma. existence, eternal existence. Krishna says, Natvevaham jatunasam natungne me janadipa nachaiva nabhavishyama sarve vayamadaparam. Never was there a time when you did not exist, nor I, nor all these kings, and never in the future shall any of us cease to be. So according to the Bhagavad Gita, the quality of the self, we'll call it the self, not consciousness, the quality of the self is eternal existence. Therefore, what is mukti? Mukti just means getting free of lower states of existence and entering into higher states of existence. So, therefore, there's different processes that we follow. But it's described here that we are also chit. How are we chit? Consciousness. Mamai vangso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna also says in the Gita, the living entities are part and parcel of me. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught the philosophy of achintya bhed abhed, that we are simultaneously different and one. We are different in what sense? The drop of water compared to the vastness of the ocean. The drop of water doesn't merge with the ocean, it always remains individual. The example is given of a cup. If you pour water in a cup, it doesn't stay at the same level, it overflows. So all the conscious entities together combined, it's also described they aren't God. God isn't just the aggregate of all parts. He is himself whole. Why? What is the evidence for that? Om Purnam Mada Purnam Idam Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adhaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. The last remaining part is whole. But Om Purnam, that Supreme Spirit Om, is Purnam, complete. Idam Purnam. Anything that comes from it is also complete. Infinity subtract from infinity is still infinity. So it's described by Krishna, Mata Sarvat, everything is resting upon me like pearls strung upon a thread, and yet I am above and beyond and separate from it. Swadhama Paramam. I am situated in my own eternal abode. Satyam Param Dhimahi, therefore we meditate upon that absolute truth. Krishna situated in his own eternal abode. So this world is all a manifestation of Shakti. Different levels of Shakti, Tatashta Shakti, Maya Shakti, ultimately Antaranga Bahiranga Shakti, the internal potency and the external potency. And everything we see in this world is manifestation of that, and it's all, especially the example is given of a tree reflected in water. So the original existence is manifestation of Shakti to please Shaktiman. What is our nature? Third part of our nature is Ananda, bliss. We are Sat, existing eternally. Chit, we experience or have consciousness. Ananda, bliss. What is that Ananda? Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavita vistavirya eva nijarupataya kalabi kaloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship that original Adi Purush. Govindam Adi Purusham. Who is the Adi Purush? The original being. I worship that. And as we were discussing in Madhurya Kadambini, the highest form of Godhead is the highest form of beauty and attraction and sweetness and love. Therefore it is Krishna. Madhurya Bhagavata Sad. Sweetness and beauty is the highest quality of Godhead. Madhurya Bhagavata Sad. So therefore Govindam Adi Purusham. Lord Brahma finally realized, we're talking about the Brahmanda, because we're all just trying to explain, we're trying to get to the point of Guru Tattva. But Brahmanda Brahmite Kon, you have to start with the Brahmanda. And what is it that I am wondering in the Brahman in this universe? What does it mean to be Brahmachari? Brahmanda Brahmite, that is Brahmacharya. But we want to wander about in the higher Brahman. Not Maya Brahmanda Brahmite. Brahmacharya means to wander in spirit. It means your consciousness should always be absorbed in spirit. That is Brahmachari. So going back to this point of Ananda. Ananda Chinmaya Ras Pratibhavitabi Srimati Radhika, this verse is glorifying her. How are you going to worship Adi Purush, the original being? Adi means the first, Purush, personality, or God. How do you worship? Through all sorts of prem paripati, means the processes of love. Also described to be seva paripati, loving service. Paripatti means a process. So who's that? Srimati Radhika tabirya eva nija rupataya kalabi. Manifesting from his own form, nija rup. Krishna's own form, taya kalabi, who pleases him through unlimited varieties of arts. That's why in devotional life the arts are so important. Right? Because these arts come from Srimati Radhika. Music, song, dance. Why is kirtan so important? Because this is one of the prominent ways by which we can please our beloved. Through song, through expressing our heart, through poetry, the arts. So Ananda, the principle of Ananda, which is also within us, is the nature with which we can love, by which we love, through which we gain happiness. But love cannot simply be directed upon itself. Love requires a beloved. Therefore it's said that in existence there are three things: the lover, the beloved, and the love itself. Otherwise known as Bhakti Bhakta Bhagavan. God, his beloved devotees, and the devotion itself. And in the case of God, love is an exchange. What are the 6 exchanges of love? Giving, receiving gifts, food, and conversation. Revealing one's heart. These are just a brief, beginning point. What is love? How do you exchange love? So therefore, exchanging love, or the symptoms of love, require relationship. And they require duality. Therefore, the one absolute non-dual truth appears in form, in multiple form. Advaya Gyan Paratattva, the non-dual absolute truth, Paratattva, appears as Shakti and Shaktiman in all its forms and features. So Srimati Radhika, she serves Krishna through millions of ways. And then all the spiritual universe manifests. It's described like the tree on the bank of the river, and then there's the reflection in the water. The tree on the bank of the river is the original source, the substance, the spiritual universe. And yet we are trapped where? Sangsar, in the reflection. Therefore it's described that Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Bij. When do we develop the seed, that dormant seed, when does it start to agitate or develop in the heart? Tasmad Gurung Prapaddeta Jigyasu Shre Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam. Who is Guru? Brahmanya Upasamashrayam, someone who has taken shelter in the Brahman, the Absolute. Upasamashrayam means someone who is fixed in the shelter of the Absolute, in relationship with that. Tasmad, what does Tasmad mean? Guru Krishna Prasad, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, the tendency to serve Krishna awakens. That is the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of the creeper of devotion, is Krishna Seva Vasana, the desire with which to offer your love to Krishna through loving service. Krishna Seva Vasana. And so therefore, when does that awaken? Tasmad Gurung Prapaddeta Tasmad. This same sentiment is reflected throughout all the different scriptures. First verse of aphorism of Vedanta Sutra, Ata to Brahma Jigyasaha Ata. Now, Ato, therefore, one should inquire into the Absolute. So now, therefore, is the same. It's actually, if you look at the commentaries of Vedanta Sutra, it comes from Tasmad. Tasmad Gurung. Tasmad means now, therefore. Gurung Prapaddeta, one should surrender to the spiritual master.